Bonjour, welcome back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Fronts. I'm very excited for Farmed and Dangerous from Chipotle. Just to give you some, make sure you are tweeting at MIP and the hashtag MDF. The MIP Digital Front is designed for digital entertainment executives. It's the first international digital content marketplace for the production, distribution, and acquisition of high-quality original content produced exclusively for online audiences. This is a fantastic example of that. I am Amber J. Lawson. I am your host, CEO of Comedy Gives Back. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Elsa from Variety.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elsa Keslassy from Variety, and during this session, we're going to chat with the team behind Farmed and Dangerous, the provocative Hulu original series that was fully financed by Chipotle. And we're going to show you a trailer so you can see it for yourself. Thank you.
Why am I here?
This is the biggest improvement in agriculture since synthetic growth hormones.
What is?
Petropellet is a game changer.
Petropellet. You're feeding cattle petroleum? Nobody wants oil in the food chain.
Well, sure they do. There's peanut oil, olive oil.
Side effects?
Do they know what caused the cow to explode?
If it wasn't jihad, I would put my money on the petroleum. Let's not overthink it, all right? They pay us to fix their image, not their cattle.
You're supposed to make sure this thing doesn't get out.
Google animal oil cow explosion video.
Why are my cows exploding all over the internet?
Who did you say was promoting that video?
The young man behind the #1 viral video. This is Chip Randolph.
Thanks for having me.
You're just a farmer.
I'm part of an organization that's committed to better farming practices across.
That's terrific. But why create a violent video of a cow exploding?
That's actual security footage from Animal Oil.
If only we could find some way to get through to him. Someone who could charm him.
How can you suggest this? You're my dad.
I would never suggest it as your dad. As your employer, however.
This fighting and petition business is going to end badly for you.
Probably.
Well, when people see that video that you put up, they're going to start hating on Animal Oil. You know, like Animal Oil is doing some kind of weird science, Dr. Evil stuff.
Like blowing up cows? Or maybe you're testing a weapons-grade version?
That's a good idea.
One day we hope to connect this mega farm to the Keystone Oil Pipeline.
Till Matt Damon makes a movie about it.
That guy's evil.
Your client, Animal Oil, is dangerous. I plan on eating for the next 6 decades, and this product scares the crap out of me, and I am not the only one.
What the hell is that?
It's an 8-winged chicken. I call him McCartney.
You want to know what the deal is? I'll tell you what the deal is. Petropellet goes down, your fiancé goes down, your daddy goes down. Let me rephrase that. We're all in this together. Those people died from eating, not starving. That's progress.
So let's welcome on stage Mark Crumpacker, Chief Marketing Officer for Chipotle. And then Daniel Rosenberg and Tim Piper, who created the show and executive produced it. And lastly, the very charismatic star of the show, Ray Wise. So tell me, Mark, we would like to know why Chipotle decided to go and produce this daring, provocative show rather than going the safer, traditional route with TV advertising. What was the idea behind it?
Okay, well, first let me tell everybody, in case they don't know exactly, what Chipotle is. We're a U.S.-based restaurant company with about 1,700 restaurants, and we grow very quickly. We open up another one every other day somewhere, including just a few days ago, our third one in Paris. So we have now some restaurants in Europe. And the company was started 20 years ago on the premise that just because food was served fast, it didn't have to be a typical low quality, unpleasant fast food experience. And it was started by a chef named Steve Elsa, who really knew nothing about running fast food restaurants. And so he created the food using very, very high quality ingredients and cooked in the restaurant, which is not how food is prepared in fast food restaurants. And over time, we developed a philosophy called food with integrity, which means we seek out ingredients that are raised with respect for the animals, the environment, and the farmers. We serve more naturally raised meats. Those are meats that come from animals that are raised without antibiotics or hormones than any other restaurant company in the world. More local produce than any other restaurant in the world, company in the world. We're the first restaurant company in the world to label GMO ingredients on our menu, of which there are only a few, and we'll be rid of all of them by the end of the year. And this quest for better quality ingredients and an experience that's fast but not gross like most fast food has led us down a path that requires us to spend considerably more money on our ingredients than our competitors.
Okay.
So we spend about 34% of our sales on our ingredients, where the industry average is about 26% or so.
So that's cheaper than a TV spot?
Well, what it means is that I don't have very much money in my marketing budget. So I only get about 1.7% of sales for marketing, and the rest of the industry gets 6 or 7%. So I don't have much to play with. And so that's led us down this path of using very non-traditional marketing. And over the last few years, we've done several short films. One called Back to the Start, which actually won the Grand Prix Lion here a couple of years ago. And then last year we did the Scarecrow film, which was another short animated film. But when we created this, we really wanted to create a show that allowed us to tell a more complete story, more than just 2 or 3 minutes. And so this show we created has all the issues in it, not all of them, but many of the issues we think are important. The overuse of antibiotics, the use of synthetic hormones in farm animals, GMOs, the use of lawsuits to intimidate farmers, you name it. There's a bunch of things in the show.
All in one.
Yeah, but we wanted to make it funny because frankly, these issues aren't very pleasant, and we're still trying to get people to go buy a burrito at the end of the day. So it became a very elaborate project, which took us 2 years. And I think the best way to show people what it is we created is to play a case study that we put together now for you, which will show you a little bit of all of the parts of this marketing program. It was more than just the 4 30-minute episodes. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the case study.
From the very first restaurant more than 20 years ago, Chipotle has been on a quest to change the way people eat fast food. By serving high-quality ingredients rather than the cheapest, by preparing food by hand rather than serving processed menu items, and by marketing our story rather than limited-time menu offers, we are changing fast food forever. Changing the way people eat is one thing. Changing the way food is raised is quite another. That's why we created Farmed and Dangerous.
It is a new comedy series from a rather unexpected source, the Chipotle restaurant chain. It's all in the name of feeding us a message.
It premiered on Hulu, a premium streaming service, and airs next to the biggest network shows on television. We made learning about the complex and sometimes unpleasant issues surrounding industrial agriculture engaging and entertaining.
What the hell is that?
It's an 8-wing chicken.
But you won't see people eating burritos in this show.
What?
Instead, we surrounded Farmed and Dangerous with a universe of elements that built awareness of the show's connection to Chipotle. We began with a teaser campaign for the show featuring our star, Buck Marshall, in a series of public service announcements.
People often ask me why industrial agriculture needs image consultants. As if our existence is an admission we have something to hide. Really? Is a trip to the beauty parlor an admission you're ugly? Not in every case.
Buck released a full-page open letter in the New York Times where he made his absurd case for industrial agriculture. Then Buck Marshall paid Larry King a visit.
Look what labeling did for cigarettes. People stopped smoking. What would happen if people stopped eating?
We partnered with the Huffington Post to create a social impact section on food and agriculture in America. Food for Thought quickly grew to over 1.5 million unique visitors per month, the most successful social impact section in Huffington Post history. All of these elements drove awareness, traffic, and social interaction across the social media universe, leading audiences to the trailer. And that's when the conversation exploded. Before the show even launched, Buck Marshall and the twisted world of Farmed and Dangerous were being talked about everywhere. The teaser campaign garnered massive news coverage across entertainment, lifestyle, advertising, and financial news outlets.
This is indeed one of the funniest things I have ever seen.
We secured the attention of influencers and bloggers by inviting them to the show's red carpet premiere in Hollywood. Farmed and Dangerous became one of Hulu's most popular shows. The show achieved a 4.5-star rating, with more likes in the first couple of days than some of Hulu's most popular network shows had accumulated in years.
Hey, Zach, you want a beer?
I'm good.
To drive traffic to the restaurants, we launched an integrated trivia contest where viewers could win food prizes at Chipotle based on their knowledge of the show. And we handed our 1 million daily customers Farmed and Dangerous branded drink cups, alongside point-of-purchase messaging and bag stuffers. While the national conversation grew, so did the love for the show. With praise from audiences and reviewers alike, it looks like Farmed and Dangerous will remain with us on our journey toward cultivating a better world.
So one thing that really strikes me is the great production value of the show. It looks really well polished, and I mean, it looks like a really large-scale campaign. I wonder, even if you cannot discuss in detail the budget, can you give us some indication of the cost of such a campaign?
Sure. We really wanted to do something that was entertainment first, and that first and foremost, that's why Chipotle is not in the show.
Okay.
The word Chipotle is mentioned only once in 4 30-minute episodes.
It's very unusual.
Yeah, it's very unusual, and so we wanted to create, an entertainment experience that didn't take people out of the show. And sometimes low production values can make it feel less than real entertaining. And so we created a very rich-looking show. The way I like to look at it in terms of cost is that while we don't, as a company, we don't disclose specifically what we spent on any individual marketing program, it's very similar, the cost of this, to what it would cost us to run a traditional campaign, which would be outdoor, radio, and print with a little online in a major market like Boston or Chicago for a year.
Okay.
So it would really only, all of that together would only cover one market for us for a year. So it's really a relatively small part of our marketing budget.
Okay, what would you say then?
You want the number?
Yes.
Well, here's what I will say. Our marketing is broken up into thirds. We spend, like I said, about 1.7% of our sales as a company on marketing. About a third of it goes to traditional outdoor radio. A third goes to local marketing, which are people spread out in cities all over the world. And then a third goes to this type of marketing, of which this is one program. We have a food and music festival series that we do. We have other content that we create. But this represents, a portion of that third of our budget. So in the overall mix of our spend, it's not a lot, but it has a very, very large impact.
Okay, great. And so you guys, how did you collaborate with Chipotle, and how did you keep your artistic integrity?
Well, now that Vice has left the building, we can tell you that this started in a boardroom.
Okay.
Mark had actually seen some work that Tim had done for another brand and left a message for us, and we tracked him down. He's not an easy guy to get a hold of, but when we did, and he brought us in and told us that he really wanted to tell this story in an entertaining way, and left sort of a wide open brief for us when we did eventually come back with this idea to do a show and to satirize. And a lot of that came actually from the first meeting, to satirize the one thing that we actually asked him: who hated you? Who out there really, doesn't like what you're about and what you stand for? Because they really stand for some incredible things, and integrity and sustainability. And he said, well, there are people out there that really think we're going to get in the way of business as usual in agriculture. And we use that as really the beginning of creating Buck Marshall, Ray Wise's character, and we went off and we brought on an Oscar-nominated writer for Bulworth to work with Tim and me, and later we actually brought on another writer. Chipotle really gave us a lot of the foundation for the creative in terms of creating petro pellet, the idea
Of the cow that explodes that comes from Mark.
Yeah,
right?
that's Mark. And you know, I think Chipotle is a little unusual in that, unlike a lot of companies that have MBA CMOs, Mark's a creative at heart, and it's a little different. You know, it's a little easier to keep your artistic integrity when the person who's, you know, standing in your way is actually a creative himself. So as much as we like to take credit for doing that, you know, really, yes, there were a lot of masters in that room, meaning we had to make great characters, a great story, but then we had another master that a traditional television show wouldn't have, which is a message. But Chipotle happens to have a great story to tell, and they actually stand for something, so that messaging is actually quite, you know, it's quite an easy it's quite easy subject matter to deal with.
And so, well, my question now is for you, Ray. Okay, go ahead. You've got a really nice tan. Very nice.
That speech. Oh, am I on? That speech left me a little dry.
Yes. Okay, so.
Excuse me.
Well, I can talk to the collaboration.
Yes, please do.
I mean, we got a lot of feedback from Chipotle, and it was always about making the entertainment better. It was never, can we have our message more in there? And I think for brands who are entering this space, they can learn a lot, you know, from these guys, in that there's no point in doing branded content or branded entertainment if it's not going to be right up there with mainstream entertainment. And they knew that from the beginning, and so they challenged us to make sure whatever we created for them was as good as mainstream entertainment. And that's what I think worked about the relationship. But they were also in the writer's room, and they were writing some dialogue, and we could push back and they could push back, but it was very collaborative.
Great. So how did they approach you with this show? Did they say right away it was financed by a brand? What was their pitch? And how did you react to it?
How did they approach me?
Yes.
Oh, I just got a call from my agent saying, these people would like you to do this. It's called Farmed and Dangerous. A satire all about the food industry and how food is produced, you know, the big food companies against the sustained agricultural people. And I read the script. It was very funny, and Buck Marshall's a great character, and I have most of the great lines, so it was a no-brainer for me. I looked at it purely as a theatrical venture, and found out a little later the extent to which Chipotle was involved. I had no idea, really, and it didn't matter to me. I was looking at it as a theatrical piece, a 4-part miniseries, and I liked the story. So that's how I got involved, and then we began the process of making it, and it became even more a part of my psyche.
Yes. And so it wasn't turned off then. And then in terms of, you know, the production values and how does it, I mean, you've been in so many movies, Twin Peaks, and TV shows like 24. How does it compare?
Oh, the production values were first rate. I mean, they were as good as any I've experienced, as well as 24 and Mad Men and Twin Peaks. Well, maybe not Twin Peaks, but no, yeah, as good as Twin Peaks. Yes, the production values.
Okay.
And the production team was great, and it was a good, you know, pretty good cast. So yeah, I think stuff made for the web and is just as good now as stuff made for the major networks, and it's all becoming one, isn't it? And I don't care really who hires me, just as long as they do.
Okay, and in terms of PR value, what would you say a campaign like that is worth?
Well, you know, the show actually has been airing one episode at a time on Hulu, and only recently did we finish putting up the 4th episode. So it's certainly not over yet. Okay. But, you know, we measure the marketing projects that we do in multiple ways. And one of those ways is, of course, the PR reach. And it was really extraordinary on this one. You know, probably halfway through the campaign, we calculated was already $10 million worth of value for us. But we also, you know, measure the social media reach and whether the feedback is positive and negative, and 94% of the feedback through social media is positive. It's the 6% that hate the show, which are the industrial agriculture people in the United States. So that's predictable. And then we use research to measure the show as well, just traditional research, whether people are familiar with it. And then we of course measure the views. Hulu doesn't allow us to disclose the views of the show, but the show did generate in the first 2 days the total number of views that Hulu thought it would get forever. And so they've said that it's the single most successful original content ever on Hulu. And so we're really happy with that. And then we do have the trivia contest that you saw in there, and it's been an extraordinary response to that too, way above what we thought the redemption would be. So when we put all that together, it seems to have worked very well for us, on every measure.
So what's the reaction of networks, for example, then? Why hasn't it been picked up by networks yet?
So we're just starting those conversations now. We had a period of exclusivity with Hulu, and we're actually, one interesting thing that happened was that a third-party brand, Ben & Jerry's, actually did an ad buy inside of Farmed and Dangerous, which, as far as we know, is the first time another brand advertised within another brand's branded entertainment. So, and then we're here with Tricon, who are selling us foreign, and they're telling us that the reaction has been surprisingly unbelievable, and that a lot of people are already familiar with the show, so hopefully we're making their jobs a little easier. But one of the benefits of unbranding the show is being able to sell this into countries where there is no Chipotle, and it sort of stands on its own for countries where they care about these issues.
Great. And I mean, what would you say then the reaction is in the US in general, in a sophisticated market like the US for branded shows like that? Is it accepted? Is it still controversial? What's the reaction?
It's funny. I think the reaction has been pretty overwhelmingly positive. If there's any controversy, it's simply that the industrial agriculture looks at it and sees that Chipotle is sort of proving you can be sustainable and be extremely profitable. And when you have a lot of money and the ability to fight that message, they find ways to do it. But from Piro's perspective as a company, I think we have our own forces that are working against us, which is that the way the advertising business is set up, they don't particularly love the idea of a show being the advertising, and that we don't require as much media, the media mix traditionally of 20% production, 80% media. Now we're sort of changing that model, and then the other side, you've got television networks that don't love the idea that their advertisers are becoming the content and not thinking about the 30-second spot, which is going the way of the woolly mammoth. So it's sort of, there's a lot of forces working for and against us, and I think, we definitely tried to do our job, create great content, and hope that our estimation of where the marketplace is heading was correct.
Yeah, it's giving a lot more power to the brands, and they used to be like a great source of income, and they would sort of step back. They would interrupt entertainment, or they could be placed within a movie, but they would have no say in the content, and the makers could just grab their money. And now we're sort of giving power to the brands. As long as they know how to create good entertainment with a message, then that can scare a lot of other industries, I think.
And so what about you? I mean, at Chipotle, are you looking to do that experience again? To go, and fully finance original programming, or go back to more traditional ways?
Well, I think we'll produce more original content.
Yes.
That's a big part of what we're doing, and it'll probably become an increasingly large percentage of what we do. Right now, it's very, very hard for networks or any distribution platform to see this as content with value as content. They see it as branded content, which it's not, and then thinking that it'll come with a big brand and our marketing budget, and we'll buy a bunch of ads on their platform. And since we don't do that kind of advertising, we don't have 30-second spots. We've never added anything to our menu at Chipotle, as a limited time offer, and I have a 30-second television spot to do it. So when we go to talk to a network about this show, they're very excited because they think we're going to buy a bunch of ads, and then we're like, well, we don't want to buy any ads, and so they have a hard time figuring out what to do with our show. If we can get past that and actually make this content have value, for example, if we were to sell international rights to it, or perhaps to sell it onto a network in the United States, that would offset the cost of producing it for us and make it a much, much easier decision to create more episodes and a full season and multiple seasons of a show like that. So that's certainly what I hope happens. But we're on the very cutting edge of this, and no brand has created that much content at that level of quality before, really in the way that we've done it here. So it's very unusual.
And you guys at Piro, do you have a lot of discussions with brands today? I mean, you guys don't just produce branded content, of course, but do you see more and more brands coming to you? Is that like a building trend, you would say?
Raise your hand if you're a brand in the audience so that we can find you afterwards. Listen, obviously, we started Piro with a belief that we can, sort of Chipotle coined this term values integration as opposed to product integration. And of course, we trademarked it. So the idea is that we would love more brands to become the entertainment. And we'd love to find more ways to do that. And for Piro, we actually were greenlit yesterday on an original series for Bravo called Odd Mom Out. It's one of the first scripted series for Bravo. So we're kind of straddling both worlds, which is important because we want to offer brands the ability to access traditional entertainment distribution. And that's what I think makes us unique, is that we sort of have Tim, who is one of the most awarded creatives in advertising, who can help with the brand strategy, while I sort of take the position of working the entertainment angles and storytelling, which Tim's now becoming an expert in himself. So it's really a nice way to bring those two disciplines together. Ray, what do you think about us?
Piro. Yeah, I like you guys a lot. We've had a good few days here. You're very entertaining.
Well, that's a good thing to know.
I love Chipotle, by the way. I actually ate a Chipotle before I did this series, before I even knew that I was going to do this series, and I would recommend their food very heartily. And also, I enjoy looking at the cups in every restaurant because it has my picture on them. So.
Have you always been?
And this is unusual. I think it's the first time probably in history that a restaurant has put the face of an actor on their cup. And I believe that, except for McDonald's, they do that a lot with Star Wars and all that sort of thing. But for a web series, this is a first. And so I'm very proud to be on their cups, and I cannot wait until, and I hope this happens, Mark, I get the Chipotle Gold Card, which means a burrito a day for life. And so if I ever become homeless, I'll at least eat. So I'm looking forward to that. And I really do hope that we continue on with this show, because there's a myriad of stories we can tell, and I love playing Buck Marshall, and I think people like him too, and so I hope it continues. So anything that you can do to help that happen, I would appreciate, and I'll keep coming back here year after year until something does happen. So thank you.
So you would be back if the show is picked up by a network. And did you mention that you were maybe talking to some studios in the U.S.? Do you have a showrunner lined up? What's
so we
happening
actually,
now?
I can't name names. We have one of the top showrunners who's been recently showrunning some of the biggest shows on television, who loves the show. Actually, compared it to Get Smart, which I loved. Wow. Just the idea that we sort of have this tonality in the show where almost anything goes. And so when we head back to the States, our plan is to have some meetings with U.S. studios as well as eventually networks, and put the whole package together where we have a studio, Chipotle, a network, and international distribution. And I think it would be really nice to create what we're going to call self-sustaining marketing, where the marketing pays for itself.
Great, you guys. Well, thank you so much. And now you're going to get a little surprise. You've been named Brand of the Year. And now it's time for your honor. So let's applaud. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you so much. Hello. Well, Chipotle is such a trendsetter and has in video content marketing, and with Farmed and Dangerous this year and with Piro have taken things to an entirely new level, as we've all seen. So we would like to award Chipotle with the MIP TV 2014 Brand of the Year Award. We'd like to thank you all for this presence here, for all the work on the team, and for being part of the MIP Digital Fronts. So now I'd like to take this award, which is right here, and if I can carry it.
You can lift it?
Can anybody carry it? Here we go. So to Mark Crumpacker from Chipotle, we present the award.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And thanks, of course, to Tim and Daniel from Piro and to Ray, our star, for making all this happen. So thank you guys very, very much. This is terrific.
Being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
They said we're going to take pictures.
Picture.
Yeah.